My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
Is the United States going to seek an off-ramp by basically cutting an even weaker version of Barack Obama's JCPOA deal? I don't think it's clear from what the president is saying right there which direction he's going to go.
Now, look, what is absolutely clear is which direction Ben Shapiro would like President Donald Trump to go in. And he's about to not so subtly tell us that the United States should, of course, attack Iran so that Israel doesn't have to. But before we get there, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, so guys, as Anna shows you the clips from Israel First, just substitute the word Iran for Iraq, and you'll see the movie that's being replayed to you, Anna.
It is pretty incredible. And I want to note, I mean, there's beautiful bipartisanship here, okay? So let's start with the right. In his reaction video to Donald Trump's State of the Union address, Ben Shapiro seemed incredibly worried that Trump would actually make a deal with Iranians and, you know, avoid war. And one of his main concerns seems to be that if the United States does not strike Iran, Israel might have to fight their own war for once.
Again, he says that his preference is negotiated endpoint here. The question really, in the end, is going to be whether the president of the United States is too concerned about the possibility of a multi-week air campaign against the Iranians to actually do it. And the Iranians just bluff him. That's really all this is about. No one is talking about a massive ground invasion of Tehran. No one is talking about a long-term occupation of Tehran. Nobody is talking about hundreds of thousands of American boots on the ground in theater. Nobody's talking about that. The question here for the president is, what is the risk reward here for a multi-week air campaign to defenestrate the IRGC and the Ayatollahs and the mullahs in Iran? And then whatever happens, happens. Because I will tell you that everyone else is watching. If the United States backs off of this and cuts some sort of unbelievably weak deal, the consequences will not just be for the Middle East, where Israel will be forced to ramp up its military even more and probably go and attack Iran itself, given Iran's capacity and increasing capacity in both nuclear and ballistic missile development and its renewed attempts to support terrorism.
I would like to read a quote that was given by a senior Trump administration official to Politico in a piece where senior Trump administration officials, including this individual, want to manipulate Americans into supporting a war with Iran. So that's the thought of the individual that I'm about to read the quote from. This is what he says. If we're talking about a regime change scale attack, which is what this is really about, Iran is very likely to retaliate with everything they've got. We, meaning the Americans, have a lot of assets in the region, including American soldiers. And every one of those is a potential target. And they're not under the Iron Dome, meaning they can't be protected. So there's a high likelihood of American casualties. Anyway, let me continue. Ben Shapiro went on to argue that if Donald Trump backs off his threats against Iran, Russia will renew their offensive in Ukraine, the world will explode, China will blockade Taiwan because they'll no longer fear the big red button that President Trump holds. In reality, we are currently experiencing a shortage of missile interceptors. We've depleted 25% of our missile interceptors by giving them away to Ukraine and especially Israel. And so as a result of that, we are going to be bogged down with this war with Iran, meaning that China will see an opening to, go after Taiwan. And that's going to be at the detriment of the United States since we still rely on them for our, semiconductor chips. But anyway, Cenk, I don't know, maybe I'm a moron and Ben Shapiro knows better than me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I know he does because I remember his daddy, Kate, let's pull up that clip again, telling us how great it was going to go in Iraq.
Right.
And he was absolutely sure. So let's watch.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Did it? And now they tell us the same exact thing. Oh, no boots on the ground. This'll be easy. Now remember, make sure you put American troops in defenseless bases and put all of your defenses in Israel. Number one, so that the most precious people on earth are protected as they start a war, but you are not protected because we want you to die so that you get dragged into this war for us. And by the way, not only should you put your planes and your ground troops, which are already there, put them in Israel so that if anyone gets hurt, it's the Americans. And then we could say, aha, you see that? Now America has an interest in this war, and that's why we're doing it. If you believe this war is going to be easy, like Ben Shapiro is telling you, and like he told you, he said the same exact thing for the Iraq war. Someone pulled up an editorial from back then saying, where Ben Shapiro was saying, oh, Iraq's going to be a piece of cake. You're an idiot if you believe that. You're super low IQ. But honestly, I don't think any people like that exist anymore. I don't know that anybody watches Ben Shapiro's show anymore. Yeah, there's like the Israel First crowd and the super dumb establishment guys who are like, oh yeah, the government's always telling the truth. Israel's our ally. We have to do everything for them. Oh yeah. But outside of like that tiny group, the whole rest of the country knows already. So we're just, like Anna, we're at this point where we're not arguing with anyone. We're just trying to figure out how to get our freedom back and our government back from people like Ben Shapiro, who are definitely going to drive us into this war.
Yeah, absolutely. In a separate video last week, Ben Shapiro tried to brush off concerns about what would happen if the U.S. attacked Iran, denying that Americans would be put at risk, even though, as we speak, American soldiers have been sent to Israel to operate the THAAD missiles to protect Israelis. You know, the military that we pay for, the military we pay $1 trillion a year for, that Trump is now lobbying for us to spend $1.5 trillion a year on. But with that in mind, here's what Ben Shapiro lied to you about.
The suggestion that tens of thousands of Americans will die, or thousands of Americans will die in Iranian counterstrikes is false. It is not true. Iran does not have that sort of overwhelming capacity. The United States is already hardening its own defenses against the possibility of counterstrike. Presumably, any strike delivered by the United States would be, in the first run, delivered directly at the ballistic missile program to take out as many bases as humanly possible. Iranian air defenses remain non-existent at this point. You could essentially fly a biplane over Iran and drop TNT from your hands onto IRGC bases at this point.
Let me just repeat this again. I want to say it more clearly. I didn't say it exactly correct in the lead up to that video. The U.S. has sent Army troops to Israel to operate the THAAD anti-missile system.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to be totally safe, right? Okay.
I'm going to make an outrageous prediction, and I'm not hoping that this comes true. I think that people will watch clips like that from Ben Shapiro after we lose a lot of men, and they will be so angry that Ben will probably move to Israel. Okay, I'm not joking, but there's going to be a situation on our hands here. They're messing around with a danger they don't seem to understand. They're pushing everybody and pushing and pushing and pushing. And they say, it's going to be easy. Don't worry. Die for us. Die for us. Die for us. Yeah, but when we do die for you, you don't think there's going to be blowback? You don't think that people are going to be enraged? People are already enraged. I mean, look, that what Tucker said to Huckabee is indisputable. 8 out of 10 Americans don't want this war. Does our opinion matter or does it not? And our government is saying to us, we're going to spit in your face. You don't matter at all. Only our donors matter. Now, it's one thing when they do it with oil companies and big pharma, etc. But this time we could see the death with our own eyes, right? We saw this movie in Iraq. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. Okay, so I hope none of that happens. I hope we don't go to war. And if we do go to war, you know what? As disgusting as it is to start a war like this and kill Iranians, and they're going to kill so many civilians, etc., but I hope that Iran has no capability and we don't get blowback and no American is hurt. I hope that with all my heart. My guess is, based on covering the news for a long, long time, that is not what's going to happen. And then people are going to be enraged, and then Ben Shapiro's of the world are going to pretend that they're the victim.
I mean, reporting already indicates that China has made weapons deals with Iran. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? This is so stupid. Now, Ben Shapiro is in a bit of a minority when it comes to independent content creators that are egging on war with Iran. But on the Hill, he unfortunately has plenty of allies, including none other than warmonger John Fetterman, a Democrat, who seriously struggled to explain how bombing Iran would help his own constituents. Take a look at this.
How do you plan to vote on Senator Paul and Senator Kane's war powers resolution?
Is that coming up?
Yeah, they just
Oh, I didn't know that for sure. Well, then that's a down.
down.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
No. I mean, I voted no on it earlier, and I supported striking the nuclear facilities, and I think it probably will become appropriate to do that. If anyone in the Senate doesn't want to acquire a nuclear bomb for Iran, then we have to make that and put that on the table, and I'm going to vote for that.
How exactly would strikes on Iran benefit the American people, like on the ground in Pennsylvania, for example?
It absolutely does. It makes the Middle East safer.
But in
peace.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah, absolutely.
how so?
Mm-hmm.
But like, how does it benefit them? Like, does it put more money in their
I'm
pockets?
voting it no, and I think we're good.
No, we're not good. I mean, they're laughing in our faces, okay? This government does not work for us, obviously. Fetterman has gone so far as to suggest that Donald Trump shouldn't even try to engage in diplomatic talks with Iran. On February 6th, he posted this on X. It's a headline from the Wall Street Journal. U.S. and Iran gather for high-stakes nuclear talks. And he commented on that, saying, "I truly don't see the value in this. The world knows Iran will never honor any treaty. Israel has carried out over 1,000 airstrikes against Lebanon after signing a ceasefire deal in 2024. They're bombing Lebanon right now as we speak. What are you talking about?" The rest of it is the last treaty with Iran led to 900 pounds near weapon-grade enriched uranium. Did we or did we not obliterate Iran's nuclear sites? What did we do last summer? And more importantly, for all the journalists out there, how much money did we spend on that? How much money did we spend last summer bombing Iran's nuclear sites that are allegedly obliterated, but now we're going to war with Iran because we're worried about their non-existent nuclear weapons? Come on.
Yeah, so again, I've been in a number of debates over the last week on this issue, and every Israel First person, oftentimes literally from Israel, they bring them on IDF soldiers and communications guys, etc., say, well, they could at a later time develop nuclear weapons, and then it'll be too late. But you've been saying that for the last 20 years, man. And on top of that, we already destroyed their nuclear facilities. That's true, but ballistic missiles, but they can't come anywhere near reaching us. But the ballistic missiles one day at a later time could be so much more advanced, and they could have the nukes, and they could put the nukes on the ballistic missiles. So that's why we have to attack them now. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Sweden could do the same thing.
Yeah.
So could Bolivia. They could at a later time. What is this? This is garbage, right? And look at Fetterman. Now, guys,
I'd rather not.
Yeah, so it's not perfectly equivalent because at least he's talking about, for example, Tim Kaine, who's along with Rand Paul. Both of them should get a lot of credit. And I can't believe Tim Kaine's a good guy on this issue, but
I know,
he is.
same. I can't believe it either.
But hey, credit where credit's due. I love it. Bygones be bygones, as long as you vote the right way, do the right things. So he's introducing a resolution saying, no, you got to ask Congress before you go to war. There's good guys like Senator Chris Van Hollen, et cetera. But there are also a lot of super bad guys like Fetterman that are in the Democratic Party. So like for Fetterman, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and a couple of others, it feels like it's not just money. So I don't know what it is, but this is like weird, right? So, but my favorite part of that interaction was when he gets to, yes, but how does this help people in Pennsylvania? That's when Fetterman goes full sling blade. Yeah, bro, you didn't even think to have an answer for that? Because he doesn't care about the people of Pennsylvania at all, or Americans. All that's going through Fetterman's head is, how do I help Israel so they don't release the tapes? How do I help Israel so I get millions of more dollars? How do I help Israel? I love Israel. I hate America. I love Israel. Okay, and by the way, as we're going to show you later in the show, Hakeem Jeffries secretly funneling AIPAC money to other Democrats. Because And remember when Netanyahu came? Thunderous standing ovations from both parties. He did that. He gave a speech to Congress in 2015 and a couple other times. And all the Democrats stood up like bitches and were like, oh, our dear leader is here. What more can we do for you, Israel? And they all cash checks. They all get bribed by the Israeli lobby, but mainstream media never tells you because they don't cover the news, they cover up the news. 94% of Congress.
All right, so we've got Republicans like Tommy Tuberville and all of these other pathetic losers supporting war with Iran, but I actually want to skip ahead to the polling because I think that matters more than what our bribed and blackmailed politicians have to say about this. So let's take a look at this poll. This is the latest YouGov poll that found that about half, 49% of Americans, somewhat or strongly oppose U.S. using military force to attack Iran. Only 27% support such an attack. 24% are not sure. 58% of Republicans support an attack, while 76% of Democrats and 54% of independents oppose. Now, while half of Americans don't want military action against Iran, there's broad bipartisan agreement that it will happen anyway because we live under a government that doesn't respect our opinion, doesn't care what we want. So 58% of Americans think that the U.S. is at least somewhat likely to take military action against Iran in the next month. Now, let me just pause and talk about the framing or the wording of the question. Because military action could be something like a strike. And some Americans might be misled into thinking this is just going to be, quick airstrikes like we did last summer, not a big deal. So some people might be supportive of that, but not so supportive of a lengthy military campaign against Iran. So I would like to see the question rephrased to be a little more specific so we can get a better sense of how Americans feel about this. But nonetheless, just wanted to give you some of the issues with the methodology here. 58% of Americans think the U.S. is at least somewhat likely to take military action against Iran in the next month. Only 11% say U.S. military action against Iran is not very likely or not likely at all. So.
Yeah, I want to draw attention to two of the numbers that Anna mentioned there. First of all, 15% of independents support this war. That's a disaster for the people starting this war. Now, by the way, you would think okay, the Republicans are obviously at fault here. They're in charge. They're in charge of the House, the Senate, the White House. Trump is making the decision. Clearly, Republicans. And since it is so deeply unpopular, especially with independents, this is a layup for the Democrats. You just run on this, you'll just win Congress super easily. Except all I hear is the sound of silence. Where are all the Democratic leaders all over television, doing op-eds, online podcasts, all over media going, no, don't go to war with that. We want to be clear. The Democratic Party is against war with Iran. It's going to be a disaster. That would be very politically advantageous, even if they didn't mean it, even if they were just being callous about it. But yet, where are they? I don't see any of them on TV. Other than Ro Khanna, I don't see anyone in online media. I don't see anyone doing anything. Where the hell's AOC? Oh, she did a tweet the other day. Oh, wow. Oh, did you? Wow. Schumer's in favor of it. Jeffries is secretly in favor of it. So the reason why they're not showing up.
It's hopeless. It's hopeless.
Because they're totally corrupt.
It's hopeless.
They're 100% corrupt.
Just a total waste. Nothing makes sense.
Leadership is.
Nothing makes sense. Like, we live in a topsy-turvy world where the people who call out the genocide are considered the bad people. We're supposed to love genocide as long as Israel carries it out.
100%.
We're supposed to pretend like the country that has a clandestine nuclear program is the good country, whereas the country that doesn't even have a nuclear program and had its nuclear sites completely obliterated by our military last summer, that's the one we should be worried about. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense.
No, that's the power of propaganda, guys. There's a giant illusion that American media has built. They say the real nuclear threat is Iran, but Iran has no nukes and their nuclear facilities are destroyed. Meanwhile, Israel has 100 nukes. How often do you hear about that? And do you know a more paranoid country than Israel? A country that has its finger on the happy trigger finger more than Israel? And so And on top of that, they say, oh, Iran is a threat to the region. Meanwhile, Israel keeps expanding and expanding its territory. And our press never talks about, oh, look at that. Their territory got so much larger. Did Iran's territory get larger? Not at all. You see, they invert the truth completely, right? So, and I could go on and on. All the things that they claim are problems with Iran are actually problems with Israel. Well, you know, they are a threat to the region. Israel attacked 7 of its neighbors, not Iran. The truth is totally inverted. And then the last number I want to draw your attention to is 19% of Republicans already not sure, but somewhat or strongly oppose this war. You might think, well, that's a small number, only 2 out of 10 Republicans. Well, 2 things about that. Number one, in the old days, that number would have been 0. So already Trump's lost 2 out of 10 Republicans, and we haven't lost a single person yet, right? So I see this all over social media. The Republicans that are still not sure or on the fence on this war are saying, no, it's going to be just like the first Iran strike or the Venezuela strike. We're not going to lose anyone. It's just going to be we win, win, win. And you guys are overhyping it. And Trump's a genius, and he's going to figure out how to do regime change with no ground troops, no nothing. It's going to be a clean war. And the minute it's not a clean war and we get stuck in a quagmire, they're going to go, oh, Jesus, man, we just got played again, okay? Because I also see that. And so let's see if I'm right or wrong, but my guess is by the end of this whole thing, the entire country is going to be united in fury against all of our political leaders.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.